Hey, what's up guys? Joker here. I hope that this video finds all of you well. I was kind of having mixed feelings about doing this video today because I'm going to have to own up to some of my own personal mistakes that I've made in my own life. But also there's a light at the end of the tunnel because I'm actually doing a lot better right now than I had been probably in about the past year or so in terms of my health, my dieting, and all of that stuff. So I just kind of wanted to put it all out on the table because I've seen a lot of concerns in the comments recently. People saying, hey, Joker, you're starting to put back on weight. You're not looking good. And, I see those things. I feel them as well. But to be honest, for a long time, I've just been kind of lying to myself and procrastinating really with the whole dieting and the health aspect. And ever since I had my gastric sleeve about, I think it's about 2 or 3 years ago now, initially, for the first year, I did great. I started off at 535 pounds. I got all the way down to 370 pounds, which was the best I had felt since pretty much high school. That's the smallest I've been since high school. And I felt really great. Met a girl that I happened to fall in love with and I plan to spend the rest of my life with, that I now live with. But I got complacent, I guess you could say. I got lackadaisical with my diet. I started eating more. We went out to eat a lot. And long story short is, it's my fault. I messed up. Nobody else did it but me. And that's what I really wanted to own up to you guys today, because I put back on a lot of weight. I put back on about 100 pounds, actually a little over 100 pounds after this recent trip to Baltimore for my birthday. I wasn't feeling good with myself before the trip, but going on the trip to Baltimore, it kind of really started to hit home because when we were there in Baltimore, I was having difficulty, walking for long periods of time. I wasn't comfortable, and we called an Uber at one point. It was a Prius, and I got in the front seat, and I couldn't even get the seatbelt on. So I felt awful. And I remember what it felt like when I got down to that 370 pound point, and I could fit everywhere. It was like there was no more barriers or obstacles in my way. When I would go to a doctor's office or a restaurant, and they would have arms on the chairs, and I was able to easily sit down, and it was starting to become difficult for me to do that kind of stuff again. Recently, my barber shop moved to a new location, and I got these new chairs, and I could barely even sit down in them. After about 15 minutes, it was complete agony for me to even be in these chairs. And all of this stuff kind of started to hit home, and right before the trip to Baltimore, I had begun doing intermittent fasting. So that's kind of where the light at the end of the tunnel begins there. So I had started doing intermittent fasting, and it was going well. I had a few bad days here and there, but I was losing about 1 pound to 1.5 pounds a day, maybe. Sometimes not losing anything, but a couple days here and there I was losing 1 pound, maybe even 1.5 pounds if I was lucky. But I still wasn't doing great because I was still, I would start eating around noon. My area of eating was between 12 and 8. So for those of you not familiar with intermittent fasting, you can do a lot of research on it, but basically the point of it is you kind of force yourself to not eat for a set period of time. So I was doing kind of the entry-level window, which was 16 hours of fasting followed by 8 hours of being allowed to eat. But I was still eating. Some days I was eating just as much as I was when I was not doing the intermittent fasting during that 8-hour window. I was still having a breakfast at 12, and then I'd have lunch around 3 or 4, and then I'd have a big dinner when my girlfriend got home from work around 6 or 7. So I really wasn't doing myself any favors with that diet, and I still wasn't exercising at that point in time. But after the trip to Baltimore, I got back. While I was there, I gained 8 pounds just in 4 days in the city of Baltimore because we were going around with our friends. We were eating a lot of food, and, we had a good time, and I enjoyed myself. But when I got back and I got on the scale, I was like, man, I gained 8 pounds in 4 days. This is awful. I need to change, and I need to change fast. So the first Monday getting back, I went back into the intermittent fasting, and it was okay. It wasn't really doing me that great. But I decided that I needed a bigger change, and after seeing some information about a 1 meal a day diet or fasting in general, I was like, man, I'm going to start tomorrow, and I'm just not going to eat. I'm just not going to eat for the next 3 days, because there are some valid points about fasting for those extended periods of time, and I wouldn't advise anyone jumping into that unless you do your due diligence and research. I would apply that pretty much to any form of fasting. If you're planning to do a fasting diet like the one I'm doing, or any sort of fasting, do your research, make sure that you're prepared ahead of time, get yourself a good multivitamin and all of that. Just be well informed, make sure you're eating the right kinds of foods when you do go into this diet. So that's just kind of my, my word of advice to anyone that maybe is thinking about doing this after hearing about my results and how good that they've been, because they have been fantastic. So starting on Wednesday morning was the first day that I went into this because I just wanted to change it, and I saw some really positive information about fasting and the potential health benefits of it, which I'm not going to go into everything here today, but it can be really good for burning fat, and also for helping with lower your blood pressure and improving insulin levels and all of that. Because if you eat many small meals throughout the day, essentially, which is, I've had nutritionists kind of advise me on this stuff in the past before. It's like, eat 6-7 small meals a day. But what I would find is that after I'd eat a few of them, I was just still hungry, and I was constantly hungry throughout the day. And what I found out from a little bit of research that I did, again, not a doctor or anything professional on this, is that when you're doing that, you're essentially spiking your insulin every time you do that, and you're making yourself more hungry. So what I decided to do after, some research is to do a 1 meal a day diet, which is dinner. So I am now only eating dinner. I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat lunch. I don't snack throughout the day at all. I have black coffee in the morning with no sugar, which previously I was drinking black coffee with just sugar, but I was like, if I'm going to do this, I need to have my coffee in the morning, so I decided to do it without any sugar, which at first was like not great. I didn't really like it, but now on the third day, I am actually liking it quite a bit, and I want to get like maybe a bit of a better whole bean coffee, because I use a whole bean coffee maker. I usually get Dunkin' Donuts whole beans, but now I want to get like a really good quality whole bean and try some others, because I'm actually just really enjoying the flavor of coffee and pretty much anything that I eat because of the fasting. It makes me really appreciate the meals that I am, or the meal that I am having, which is dinner. So rather than doing a 16-hour fast followed by an 8-hour window of allowing myself to eat, I am giving myself a 1-hour window to eat every single day. And so far, since getting back from Baltimore when I was 478, I am now, as of this morning, down to 457.8 pounds. So I have lost just over 20 pounds in 5 days. Since Sunday evening when we got back from Baltimore, that is, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, today is Friday morning, I have lost just over 20 pounds in 5 days I was doing intermittent fasting the first 2 days, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I've really saw the bulk. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I lost 15 pounds those 3 days alone. So I've been losing about 5 pounds a day doing this fasting diet where I'm only eating in the evenings. And now on the third day right now, this is honestly the easiest day that it's been so far, because the first day was hard. Like in the morning, my body was used to eating breakfast in the morning, like around 7 or 8. So I wanted breakfast. I was craving breakfast. Around lunchtime, I started craving having lunch. I wanted food in my body. But then, those things go away. By like 1 or 2 o'clock, after I would get past that initial window where I would feel hungry, that would go away. And what I found out through some more research is that what that has to do with is this thing called circadian rhythm. So what circadian rhythm is, it's basically your internal clock that kind of regulates you and kind of tells you when to eat. So if you're on a routine of eating breakfast every day at 9 a.m., lunch at 12, and dinner at 5, at those times a day, you are most likely to be hungry. So you are going to want to eat because your body starts producing more ghrelin. And this is basically the stomach enzyme that tells your body you're hungry and sends a signal to your brain, it's time to eat. I need food right now. But really, that's not the way our bodies are designed to work inherently. I mean, if you look back at our ancestors with cavemen and all of that, they were lucky if they ate once a day, maybe even just a couple of times a week, if they were lucky. And there are still lots of tribes around the world that, still kind of practice this stuff. As far as eating 3 times a day here in America, that was instituted by the first pilgrims coming over from Europe, where they would find the Native Americans. Native Americans would pretty much just eat whenever they felt like it. And the Europeans that would come over, they were like, oh, this is, barbaric, and they have no structure to their lives whatsoever. And they instituted the whole 3 meal a day thing, which we still kind of live off of today. So yeah, there's just a lot of information out there about that kind of stuff if you guys want to research it. But the long and short of it is, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm not feeling hungry today at all. Like, I woke up, I had 3 cups of black coffee. Once again, no sugar. Haven't craved breakfast. It's now about noon. I'm not craving lunch. I'm looking forward to dinner, though, later. I got some cubed up chicken breast marinating in the fridge, which I'm going to throw on the grill with some red peppers on skewers and make some kebabs. And there won't be any starch in that because I've completely cut out carbs and sugars, just focusing on whole foods, lean meat like chicken. I'm sure I'll have beef as well. I did have some pork on Wednesday night. We had some just pork carnitas, which is just like a slow-cooked pork shoulder. So we had some of that on Wednesday night, but I'm doing my very best to eliminate any sort of added sugars when I'm, picking up food, like, off a shelf. I'm reading the labels, like, does this have extra carbs, added sugars, anything like that? Because, man, you'd be surprised how much food in the soup, like, if you go to the supermarket, like, 90% of the stuff in there is just straight garbage. It's literal poison. So when I'm shopping in there, I'm trying to find myself sticking to, like, the produce aisle and the meat aisle, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where I'm doing my shopping right now, and that's what I plan to do in the future because this diet's working for me, and I feel better than I have in a long time. Even when I was down at 370, I feel physically better. I think it's a lot of that has to do with cutting out the sugar and the carbs. I think that's helping me a lot. So I'm going to keep it going, man, and hopefully, I have good results because right now I feel really good. I want to keep this going. I want to lose the weight. I want to be healthy. I want to be around for a long time. And I don't want you guys to have to look through the camera every day on YouTube at a fat mess and the typical PC gamer. Because I get those kinds of hate comments all the time. Like, oh, fat ass, you fat piece of shit. Go fuck yourself. Kill yourself, you fat fuck. And that kind of stuff goes in one ear out the other. Because I've been hearing that shit since I was like fucking 12 years old. So I really don't care about those people. But the people that do say, actually voice their concern, like, hey, Joker, you look like you're gaining a few pounds. You really need to get this under control, man. Watch your health. That kind of stuff, that does weigh on me. And, I see those comments, and most of the time I'll just kind of ignore them, mostly because I don't want to have to deal with it myself, because I'm afraid of having to look myself in the mirror and really take accountability for that. So that's kind of why I wanted to do this video today, is just take accountability and, let you guys know that I've heard you, and I was feeling pretty shitty about myself coming back from Baltimore, but now I'm feeling good. I'm going forward. I'm exercising every day I've been going. I started off doing a 1 mile walk around a local lake around here. It's pretty much exactly a 1 mile. It's 0.95 miles if I do a full lap and come back to my car. This morning I did it again. I did 2 laps. So now I'm doing 2 laps and it feels awesome. And I couldn't be happier so far about this diet, and I really hope that I continue with it. Because, I still like food. I still want to eat food, and I still have those concerns in the back of my mind about what I'm going to do when it comes to social outings, and if I'm, going out on the weekend. My girlfriend and I usually like to go out on Saturdays and kind of go on, like, long day trips out of the house for, like, sometimes 4, 5, 6 hours, and, we like to go out to eat, and, we're both Yelpers. We like to go on Yelp and find great restaurants wherever we are because we're foodies. I guess that's the code word for fat pieces of shit. At least for me, anyway. I guess so. I would kind of use that as, oh yeah, I'm not fat. I'm just a foodie. I just enjoy really good food, and I still do. But I'm concerned about that going ahead. Like, what am I going to do? Like, if we want to go to a pizza place, and am I going to go there and am I going to enjoy myself and kind of have a break off the diet for the day or just the meal? Am I going to have pizza? Am I going to try to find a healthy option on the menu and just order myself some boring grilled chicken? I really can't speak for the entirety of the future, but I think for this, at least, these initial coming weeks, I definitely want to stick really strict to the diet because I feel like that's what I need to do to help myself from sort of relapsing back into my old habits and my old ways. The thing I keep on thinking about in the back of my head is, like, if you were an alcoholic or a heroin addict or whatever, you don't, go off the alcohol for a few days and then just have a little bit of alcohol or a little bit of heroin or whatever, because then you're just basically back where you started and you might not recover for days, weeks, months, years, who knows. And with food, I'm not saying it's harder than those types of drugs, but I feel like it's harder in a certain sense where you have to eat. Like, you can't not eat forever. You're going to have to eat again. No matter what, you will have to eat. When it comes to heroin or alcohol or whatever kind of drug, when you quit it, you're quitting it. You're not doing it ever again. No questions asked. That's the way you're going to stay clean. But with food, you have to eat to survive. You just have to. So that's always going to be a struggle for me. But right now, I feel like I'm in a good place and I'm excited about it. And I hope you guys are as well. please let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on the intermittent fasting / 1 meal a day diet. If you want more information, Google's your best friend. Just Google intermittent fasting, 1 meal a day, warrior diet, keto. There's all sorts of information out there, and all that stuff kind of does work together, because after a certain period of time when you're not eating, you enter into a state of ketosis where your body starts to burn fat for energy, and as long as you're exercising and eating the right foods, you'll avoid your body from consuming your muscle mass. So yeah, like I said, I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but there's tons of information out there, and it seems to all be pretty damn positive, and it's working for me so far, so I'm going to stick with it. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to be working on this build behind me right here. This is my new HTPC build, which I was just updating to the latest version of Windows. I've got to download some games on there. And then we're going to test that for tomorrow's video. And I will see you guys for that on a good note. And yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Tara.